week one is going to be all about the inner voice. So this is about creating space to listen to yourself, to hear your inner voice, and then to honor your inner voice as well. So from a human design perspective, this is really going to look like looking at your authority, about how your body speaks to you, and really building that relationship with that authority. Because I think if you don't know how your like intuition is talking to you, sometimes it's hard to even figure out what that means.
Absolutely. And from an evolutionary astrology standpoint, your inner voice also has to do a lot with your psychological foundation. So that is the IC in the fourth house. So it's about your family, your family history, your psychological foundation. The sixth house has to do with being in service and can lead into codependence. So how are you, naturally being in service, and how do you be in service to yourself? And the seventh house is about one-to-one relationships. So it really is about peeling out, where do you step back and start to listen to yourself, and where do you allow those relationships to take over? There's a lot of the intuition also has to do with Neptune and Pisces. So we'll see where those placements are in people's charts, because that is a very intuitive energy. It's it's an open energy. So not only do you feel a lot of your own intuition, but sometimes you can't tell, like you feel everybody else's energy. So it's discerning what is yours and what is other people's.
And I think that's a really important place to start, because if you don't even know how to listen to yourself, or like these bigger themes that you're listening out for, like you've got no kind of reference point to start. And I think when it comes to intuition and listening to your authority in human design, like just opening that door with your body or with your higher self, or whatever, however it is that you look at it, and saying like, I'm willing to hear what you have to say. Then the body, whatever it is that it is to you, begins to communicate with you more, because you've like put that intention out there. And I think it's just such a beautiful way to say, like, I don't have to do everything I hear from my intuition, because that's scary to begin with. But just saying that, like, I'm here and I'm ready to listen to you, I think is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And also, it's, feeling into your body, because a lot of times it's hard to really discern what is your intuition and what is all that other stuff coming in, whether it's other people's energy, expectations, or even like the base of your upbringing and all of the layering of culture, expectation, and family. So how do you feel the difference in your body of what is what is really your intuition and what is really that overlay? And it's hard. It can be very difficult to untangle. But like you said, by opening it and even having that invitation initially just opens the door. And you don't have to have it figured out immediately. It's just having that opening to kind of crack into it is perfect. The perfect start.
Then we have week two. So week two is going to focus on self-love. And this is about, now you understand how to listen to yourself, how are you going to create space to care for yourself and for your body? So in your human design, we're going to look at your sacral center, whether this is defined or undefined, your heart center as well, whether this is defined or undefined, and the spleen as well. As the spleen is that center of kind of like fear and instinct. And whether this is defined or undefined, you're going to find caring and loving your body shows up in very different ways. We might also talk about the determination, which is how you physically nourish your body as well. So human design has all of these pieces that can show you how your body is kind of genetically wired to be nourished with food, which can be so helpful in you just creating the system in which you're supporting your physical body as your vessel here as you move through the world.
Yes. And so with self-love and creating space to care for yourself, that is very first house energy. First house is associated with the sign of Aries and Mars. So it's an I am energy. It's about your right to exist in the world. And if you don't feel like you have a right to take up space, how do you end up loving yourself and feeling that you deserve to take care of yourself? So the first house, it really is your body and how you express things physically, and depending on where the sign is in any planets, that also gives an indication of how of your physicality and how you have, you know, your body awareness. And also playing into that, as much as the sixth house can be about service to others, it's also about daily routines, health routines, and being in service to yourself. And so sometimes there's that line of, where am I in service to others too much, and how can I be more in service to myself? Because everything is a higher vibrating energy and a lower vibrating. So there's always two sides to the stick. And so a lot of that is first house, sixth house type of energy.
That just speaks a lot to kind of, especially conditioning as a female as well. And we are almost kind of conditioned from birth to put the needs of others and to be of service and caring for others before caring for ourselves. But this is just a really an invitation to, in order to care for others, I have to care for myself. And once you and your body are fully cared for, you can care for the people that you love in a way that you have never imagined before.
Definitely this myth that, especially for women, but there are men too, a lot of men who, like, unless you're giving of yourself to exhaustion and emptying, you're not truly being in service. When in reality is we can only give what we have.
Mm-hmm.
And if we aren't full and cared for, we're not able to give our best selves to others. So loving ourselves is really the first step in loving others.
So then we have an integration week. So this is really a place to take all of those things that you've learned and integrate them and live them. And I think our focus for this program isn't just about giving you information. It's also about giving you time and space to put these things into practice in your life and to be able to listen to your intuition and to start creating more practices that care and love and nourish your body as you go through the program. So there isn't this moment of like overwhelm at the end where they have all this information and now what? So we very purposefully built in these integration weeks throughout the program.
I can't stress enough that Rachel and I don't want to be like, well, we have all this knowledge and we can help you here, have fun. Because this is very deep work. It could be very challenging work. As you start to move through this and have that awareness, you can kind of shake some things loose that might kind of rock your world a little bit. And we don't want to be just like, okay, have fun, figure it out. Like we will be here as a resource throughout the entire program. We will have a private Slack channel where you can message us individually, or you can even post in the community, because chances are, if there's something that you're feeling and going through, there are others in the program that are feeling the same thing. And it is important to us that we support you through this. Like we are walking each other home. We are creating this container of safety and creating this very brave space so we can move through this by the end of the program, that you will really feel that you trust yourself and you know yourself and you have discernment and you can understand your body and what it's telling you and dial into your intuition and have boundaries and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And I love that you mentioned that, because as we know, this is really lonely work, or it can be, and you can feel very alone. So we've created this program to have that safe community space where you're not on social media. It's not just individual messages. You can have, and we will have these threads where you can share when you feel is safe to do so with other people in the community and in the program as well. And I definitely know, like, some of my biggest kind of breakthrough moments have been when somebody else mentioned something that they were going through, or somebody else shared, just even in the particular way that they use like their words, and I've gone, that's it, like that's the bit that I'm struggling with. And I couldn't have put words to it until somebody else articulated it and shared their perspective.
And not only that, to me, in what I've experienced and participated in and facilitated, there's something so incredibly powerful about others bearing witness to what you're going through. There's that being seen, being held, and being validated. That is, it's, a lot of people. There's so many self-help books out there. You can certainly do pre-recorded courses. You could read all the books, but there's something to have a group of people holding you as you go through this experience and knowing that you don't have to do it alone. And that's what we want to create, is this beautiful, held, safe environment so that you can really truly step into this and know that you're okay and that we have you.
So moving into week 4, we're going to start focusing on the outer voice. So now that you are nourishing and caring for your body, and now you know how to listen to your inner voice and you've opened that door, how are you going to express yourself as this version of you that you know who you are? So in human design, again, we're always going to come back to the authority, making those decisions based on who you are, not who you think you should be. We're going to talk a bit about the throat definition, because whether you have a defined throat or an undefined throat, the way you express is going to come out into the world in very different but equally as beautiful ways. And we're going to talk a little bit about the circuitry as well, and how you are wired to look at the world. Are you wired to support just the small group of people that are near you? Are you wired to be sharing much bigger macro ideas for the future of humanity? Or is your energy kind of grounded in what you're doing and the changes that you are creating just by being perfectly yourself?
And for the astrology piece, the 5th house is about self-expression and unmuted self-expression. It's ruled by the sun and the sign of Leo. So what your sun sign is can also indicate what your expression in this world is meant to be. The sign of Leo, it's a very bold energy. It's also expressive and deeply loving and caring. There's a pointing to how you create and how you create to share with the world and express yourself in those ways. We also will look at the placement of Uranus, because that planet is freedom of ego. Again, it's that unmuted expression of your ego. And it could be about surprises and a little bit of rebellion. So how do you get to step into that part of you that maybe you're muting and you're holding back?
And I think for everyone, like when you first start to truly express yourself as who you've always known yourself to be, it feels kind of rebellious.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because I know, especially as a woman growing up, it's like I had to be a certain way and act a certain way and don't say that. Don't be too bold. And so it does feel kind of like you're bucking the system and you're just really, shaking it off and being rebellious and surprising.
And we're here for all of that energy for the whole time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So then week 5, we're moving into relationships. And how do you use the intuition and the inner voice that you know you have, the way you're showing up for and respecting your body and yourself, and how are you going to express this now in relationships? Because knowing how to express yourself is one thing, but expressing those in relationships, be it friends, be it at work, be it intimate partners, be it family, is a whole different thing, because you're playing with, it's the coming together of energies, isn't it? So it adds another layer of just kind of intricacy to expressing yourself. So in this week, we're going to talk a lot about boundaries. There's going to be a lot of talk in human design about the solar plexus, whether you have a defined solar plexus and are an emotional authority, or whether you don't have a defined solar plexus. We're going to talk a little bit about the head and the ajna, and also the root center in human design as well. There's a piece also with definition. So if you're a single definition expressing yourself in a relationship, you're going to come at it from a very different angle than if you have split definition as well. And we're going to go into what this means to be in relationship with all these different aspects of your human design chart.
And the astrology piece with relationships and voice and boundaries, voice and communication fall in the realm of Mercury and the 3rd house, and how you express yourself, process information, teach, learn. But really, the relationship starts in the seventh house. So that's your one-to-one relationships with people that are close to you, how you do relationships, how you seek to be in relationships. There's a lot of influence for the planet Venus, because Venus definitely governs, I mean, it's beauty, peace, and love, but it also represents relationships, how we need to interact with others in our relationships, depending on the sign and the house placement. Um, there's also the asteroid Juno, and that actually speaks to how you do conflict in relationship. Do you stay quiet to keep the peace, or are you able to express yourself in a way that's healthy for the relationship? Also playing into that, there's this eighth house. It's a very deep, penetrating, psychologically deep house, and that's where our deepest relationships are built, where there's incredible vulnerability and incredible trust that needs to happen. And that's like those really deep, close relationships. So how do you move in those relationships? How have you been taught or learned um, to be vulnerable, and how do you do that? So that we're going to look at, it's a lot of components, but they all fit together. And then there's a little bit of the 11th house, which is more social circle, finding your tribe. But it's really, once you are able to set boundaries and refine with your interpersonal relationships, those other relationships becomes healthier too, because you have that core of understanding with the ones that mean the most to you.
And I think this piece is so important in this journey of becoming that person that you want to be, that you already know you are. Because, and I know I've expressed this, like when I learned who I was and owned it, there is this tendency to go full expression in relationships, but it doesn't necessarily respect the people that you're in relationship with. So this week is really about, how do you take that version of you that you're uncovering and stepping into and express it in a way that is full and is authentic, but is also supportive and just really kind of beautiful and magical with the relationships that you have, as long as they're aligned and you still want them to be in your life, without accidentally kind of like starting fires that you didn't necessarily mean to start.
Having said that as well, you'll find that as you do this work and you move through the program and you become more aligned with yourself, you trust yourself, you're more true to who you are, that there may be some people, the people that you connect to and that matter will move through you with this, and you'll learn a healthy way to connect with them. But the reality is there are going to be some people that fall away. They want your old version, and that's okay. It's okay. And it's okay to start to discern what are the relationships that are truly important to you, where you want to put in this work for that deeper connection, that vulnerability, that trust, and finding a healthy way forward in your true expression, and which relationships are just like, I love you, this is who I am, maybe we'll meet for coffee kind of thing. And it doesn't need to go deeper than that.
Yeah, because the people who are meant to be in your life will begin to reflect these behaviors back to you. So as you grow and as you get better at fully and authentically expressing yourself, the people who love you and who support you and who are in your life for the long haul will begin reflecting these behaviors back to you. And I think that's what is so beautiful about this journey, is although as much of it's about you and your growth and you feeling good, people in your life will come on this journey with you by accident, and they'll begin modeling the behaviors that you're sharing with them. And it's just a beautiful impact that you get to have on everyone, to have these more intimate but also authentic relationships and be happy in those places as well.
Absolutely.
Then we have week 6. So week 6 is focusing all on your purpose. So what does purpose even mean to you? What we see purpose as in society is one thing, but how does it show up in your life? So in human design, we're going to talk about your sun gate. So this is 70% of kind of your energy shining out into the world. your profile. This is going to talk a lot, again, to how you see yourself, how others see yourself, where your strengths are in moving through life in the most aligned way. And we're going to talk about the G center too. So this is a center of identity. And if you have a defined G center, your identity may be very stable and fixed. But if you have an undefined G center, your version of purpose and direction might be really fluid. And learning to accept and honor that is going to be a huge part of what it means for you in living your purpose in your human design.
And on the astrology side, we will talk about the 10th house, which is your public face, but it also is related to career and vocation. It is ruled by Saturn and Capricorn, and that is where your gift to the world is unearthed. So we'll also look at Saturn placements, because Saturn can be a very tough energy with a lot of discipline and boundaries and hard work and foundation. But you really need that to be able to bring forth your great work. And great work doesn't necessarily mean, you're going to start a big nonprofit that impacts the world. Your great work could be simply raising children. It could be being a good human being to others, being kind the great work is really defined by what is true to you. And this is why we bring this in at this point in the program, because you'll start to have more discernment and an understanding of what truly great work means to you. We'll also look at midheaven, which points to your vocation and your purpose. The other part that we'll look at is the North Node and the South Node. So the South Node is where you bring in like past energy from prior lifetimes, a lot of karmic sort of gifts, but also maybe challenges. You may subconsciously trip yourself up there. But the North Node is where your soul seeks to grow in this lifetime. So when you look at the North Node and the midheaven and your Saturn placements, you start to get a sense of, where your soul has sought to grow, where you're meant to stretch and be in this lifetime.
And I think purpose is just such a broad thing, isn't it? And when you're thinking about your purpose, we have interpreted it in society as, oh, what job am I here to do? But your purpose is so much more, and it always will be so much more than the way that you make money, to pay your bills. So although your purpose can speak to what you're here to do for your career and your vocation and where your gifts lie, this is about your soul's purpose as a human being. And as you say, it's very likely that it has absolutely nothing to do with work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep.
So then we have another 2-week kind of integration break, because you've done a lot of work and we've gone through a lot of different pieces of your human design and of your evolutionary astrology chart. And this is another time for you to take all of this information to begin putting it into practice. How do you express yourself in a more authentic way? How do you begin to curate these relationships with people based on that new authentic self-expression? And take some time to even kind of reflect and just contemplate, what does purpose mean to me? Or what do I want purpose to mean to me in my life as I move forward as this new empowered and authentic version of myself?
And it's not like we're just going to be like, okay, see you in 2 weeks. Again, we'll have the private Slack channel, and in between we'll be checking in. You can check in with us in the group. You can post what might be coming up for you, or where you might need to kind of talk things out. The beautiful thing about Slack is you could post little videos as well, or you can post voice memos if typing is not your thing. And, in between, throughout this whole program, we'll be having, some prompts, some workbooks and materials. So it's not like you have to take copious notes. It's about sitting into the experience and, utilizing the tools if you choose to help you refine it. And even within the 2-week breaks, we'll be posting little prompts or little questions. And so it's not just like it's an unsupported 2 weeks. It's just really not feeding you more information. It's so you can integrate it, work through it with our support and the support of the community.
You're never going to be alone on this journey. We'll always be here to be prompting you, to be asking questions. And if anything comes up, obviously there's that space there to reach out to us as well. So then moving in to week 9, we're going to continue talking about purpose, because it is just this giant theme kind of within your life. So with human design, we're going to continue to talk about, that sun gate and how that shows up, what that means to you. We can also talk about your unconscious definition and how your body is here to really shine its light into the world, and ensuring that we're making space for both your body and your vessel to kind of guide you, and then for your personality to do its personality thing. We might get a little deeper into your Mercury placement in human design. So this is your communication, but it's really the message that you're here to share, which talks a lot to your vocation and your career, if that's something that you're looking for.
And with the astrology piece, again, it's a deeper dive. And in the 2 weeks, like you'll have a lot of shifts by then, and maybe realizations. So by the time we meet in week 9, things may look different to you than you had thought when we met in week 6, which is the purpose of the program. And so what I would talk about is our Jupiter placement, because Jupiter is where we expand, and it just really expands everything that it touches. And how does the Jupiter and the Saturn work together for your growth and expansion? We could look at the 11th house again, that is being out in the world to achieve something with a group that has an impact. And even 12th house is like that very deep introspective house of letting go and letting things flow, and really, connecting into that more spiritual, unattached place to get insight, and learning all of this stuff. Really, where's your purpose?
And then once again, after that big conversation and those big themes and big ideas, we have another 2-week integration break, because you have so much information at this point. And I think the beauty and the magic of human design and astrology as a system is pieces kind of click into place, one kind of after the other. So by this point, you have many pieces falling into place, and you need that space to go out and live these things you know about yourself, to live your purpose, to live your self-expression in your relationships. And this is another opportunity to keep allowing those pieces to fall into place, because the purpose of this program isn't just that you have information, it's that you leave this 12 weeks a different person that you entered, the person that you want to be. It's really like shedding those pieces that aren't you and stepping into that person that you are, like coming home to yourself. And these integration weeks, again, with the support there, allow you to leave not just with information, but being the person that you knew you were to begin with.
And I also think that it's important to say is, like, once you start opening and you have this awareness, coming through, and feeling the shifts and having this understanding, like, you can't go back. Once you go down this path, like, you are a different person every single week. You're a different person. You're not the person you were the week before. Every awareness opens you more. And so there may be times when you are feeling, because it could be very overwhelming. You could feel, a little like ungrounded, because things are shifting, and that's okay. That's part of the process. And again, that's why we're here to support you throughout the entire 12 weeks, but also to know that just because you're feeling that's normal, and it's not like you're going backwards, because that's impossible. And that's why the integration weeks are so important, and that we stay in touch with you and you reach out to us so we can all work through this together, because it is big work. But it's so rewarding to be able to work through it and just sit on the other side of it and be like, wow.
I think wow just definitely sums it up. So then week 12, which will be our final week as part of the program, and we're really going to focus on boundaries here. So now you have had these big shifts and you know how to communicate and how to listen with your intuition and to build those secure and healthy relationships, and you're moving towards really stepping into your purpose and living your purpose, because it is a lifelong work. What boundaries are you going to need to have in place to continue living as this person that you are and being this person? Because we know, and I think everyone knows, that once you leave this space, it's easier to kind of fall backwards. So this is about creating boundaries for yourself, to support yourself, to remind yourself of the work that you've done and how good you get to feel in life, so you can continue on the trajectory that you're on, even though life is going to happen, because it happens to us all. And this is also an opportunity to kind of reflect on how far you've come, to celebrate how far you've come, and also to be celebrated by the community and how far you've come, and have that reminder that you made this progress, you did this work, that we were all there to witness you, and that we will continue to celebrate you into the future.
And I think it's so important to take that step back and have that reflection, because sometimes we're so caught into where we are that to be able to look back and really recognize and celebrate all, because it is challenging work, and it's not, not everybody is willing to step in and to do this. It really is a transformation. Transformation is a very big word, but it really is what happens. By the time you get to the end of the program, you're going to be a very different person than when you started. And it really is, like Rachel said, it's a jumping off point into the rest of your life. It's not like you're done with 12 weeks and it's done and you go on your merry way. Like you've really opened a whole way of being, where you're more aware, you're constantly refining. Again, setting boundaries is important in the last week, because that will really set you up for success. And setting boundaries can be challenging, especially if you're not used to doing it. But being more sure of yourself, trusting your body, like what your boundaries are. And the realization is that there will always be people testing them, and always be people stepping over them. So we'll talk about, so what do you do when that happens? Because you can say, yeah, I set a boundary and this is it. Well, what if someone keeps crossing over it? So we'll have those kind of conversations, because that's a very real thing. And then, by the time that we're done with this, it's feeling sure of yourself, knowing who you are, trusting who you are, and being able to set and assert your boundaries in a very loving but firm way, so you can move forward and continue your journey on.